Bust it.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Political Platform on Reaper FM. Much later in the day on AIT Abuja and AIT International. My name is Amechi Anapwe. Now, for the second time in 2 months, the National Assembly, that's the House of Representatives and the Senate, had another joint session. 2 joint sessions. The last one was on April 18, after the Senate chamber was invaded by thugs and the mace, the symbol of authority of the National Assembly, stolen. Immediately after the National Assembly members, that's the House of Representative members, moved over to the Senate session chambers to join them on a joint meeting. Now, yesterday, another joint meeting came. Another joint meeting came, or was it the senators that joined the House of Representative members then? But yesterday, following an invitation extended to the Senate President Bukola Saraki by the police to appear before it, but later the police changed their mind and send in a written statement. They felt there was another need for yet another joint session, and they did, and they came out with very powerful resolutions. How many of them now? About 12 of them, but the very last one is one that has the biggest weight. They threaten to invoke constitutional powers if Mr. Buhari, that's the president, fails to heed to their resolution. Now, what's the meaning of constitutional powers? Some people believe it is impeachment, to impeach the president. They raise a lot of issues bordering on what they said lopsided anti-corruption campaign, the killings going on across the country, non-adherence to the rule of law, name them. And they want the president to take action. And the last one, if he doesn't, they invoke constitutional powers. Now, a member of the House of Representatives, Mohammed Kazaure, said they are already collecting impeachment signatures in the House. They are asking the members to sign with a view to commencing an impeachment proceedings against the president. But he promised them that they will fail in that regard. Now, there's a division within the National Assembly. Another group, the Parliamentary Support Group, this group, they try to proscribe the leadership of the National Assembly, that this group is pro-President Muhammad Buhari. They said what transpired at the executive session did not reflect the general thinking within the National Assembly. Some of them are against the resolution, but they said they did not join issues with them at the executive session because they wouldn't want it to be rowdy. They say, for instance, most of the resolutions they came up with have already been discussed on the floor of both chambers, and there was no need to go to that extent. It was mainly PDP members that spoke, so it did not reflect the outcome or the general thinking and pattern within the National Assembly. Another of the resolutions was that they will reach out to members of the international community to save Nigeria's democracy, which they believe is under threat. The National Assembly will meet a few international communities to deepen and protect our democracy. They are joining the PDP, which has already sent letters to international institutions, organizations, and Western countries, asking them also to come in and ensure that Nigeria does not derail. So, is it another opposition within the National Assembly? We'll be speaking with some of the persons from the National Assembly. We'll be speaking with Honorable Solomon Maren from Plateau State, and we made attempts to reach out to the pro-Buhari senators and House members in the National Assembly. But for now, they are not forthcoming to speak to us, but we'll continue to make the efforts. There was a meeting of the National Security Council yesterday at the State House, Abuja, and at the end of the day, Minister of Defense Mansiu Danali came out with a statement where he said that he suggested that the anti-open grazing law in states where they are in operation should be suspended as a way of resolving the killings going on across the country, and that there is a need to employ other channels to reduce tensions. If you recall, anti-open grazing laws are already in existence and in operation in Benue, Ekiti, and Taraba State. And that same yesterday, the Abia State House of Assembly passed their own anti-open grazing bill, awaiting assent by the governor. But the Minister of Defense believes there's every need to suspend that. It appears so many discordant tunes from the presidency, from the federal government on this issue of killings. The president will say it is a loyalist of the late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. The defense minister will say no, it is about this anti-open grazing law. The National Economic Council will say no, it's all about open grazing. Let's discourage it and let's go ranching. Maybe there should be a retreat where all of them will sit down on a round table and agree on the best position and the best solution to this problem. My colleagues are here with me. Ijomo Samo, welcome to Political Platform.
Thank you very much, Amechi. When they say the people that were together yesterday in the joint session were just the PDP members.
Those that spoke mainly PDP members.
And at the end of the day, the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, they are both APC members, and they are both leaders of the both chambers of the National Assembly. Like this morning, I tried to talk with one or two of the members, and this is what they also told me. They do not want to talk about it because they believe it is a PDP decision. But looking at it from what the Senate President said yesterday, there is need for them to come together, harmonize, and take a decision on what to do about what is happening in the nation today. A lot of persons are not too happy about it, and it's reflecting. So if the National Assembly is saying stop the killing in Nigeria, otherwise we revoke our powers, then they're already telling the president we do not like what is happening. That's the way I think it's going.
Uju Ejeye is also in the studio with us.
Amechi, I was there yesterday, before and up till after the meeting, and I saw the looks of concern on the faces of most of the lawmakers. I also saw a look of something maybe close to fear. And the general consensus, actually, I spoke to a cross-section of lawmakers, even the APC members. A lot of them were in agreement that the institution of the National Assembly was threatened by the way the chairman of the National Assembly, who is the Senate President, is being I don't know how to put it, and I'm trying to use.
Maybe you can say hounded.
Okay, yes. First it was the CCT trials, and of course that hampered work in the Senate, whether they accept it or not, because each time it came up, all of them would have to. Most of them would have to follow him to the court. And now this latest one was something that really rattled them. And they were of the opinion that injury to one is injury to all, because you're talking of the institution of the National Assembly and not just an individual. One of them said if the head is threatened, that means the whole body is in trouble. And today it seems nobody knows. In fact, some of them said, look, we know they are going to come maybe for some of us. And another one said, look, from now, all of us, let's be careful what we do, how we act, so they will have nothing to hold on them. I'm just trying to paint a picture of the emotions yesterday as they went into that meeting. I think that they were also more mature in what came out eventually, because some of them were saying, look, let's just, I don't want to use the word, let's just do what is necessary and let's all have peace. But of course, you and I know that it doesn't work that way. You can't impeach a president anyhow. He's still the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He has his powers and he still has supporters. So I think that what eventually came out is a more mature version of what was the desire of some of them.
I spoke with a stalwart of the APC. I wanted him to speak to us on this program, but he declined. But he left me with one statement: those collecting signatures, let them sign and let them go back to their constituencies to feel how safe they will be. Of course, they're talking about the popularity of the president. But as like you rightly mentioned, Uju, to impeach a president is very difficult, especially in a federal written constitution like the one we have in Nigeria. Extremely difficult. That's why you don't always see it happen. It's just like recalling a member of the National Assembly is very difficult. The Dino Melaye issue proved it. Even when he was not there, they fell short of the numbers they need. To impeach this president is even more difficult. Like the stalwart told me, when you sign that, and especially if you're from northern Nigeria, you may not want to go back to your constituency. You may know the full consequences. But some you may say is a threat, but that's the situation. But hope maybe at some point we'll get to that point where you take your action, take a position without fear of being intimidated, without fear of being mobbed, and the nation continues to go on.
At the same time, I think that the arms of government, the different arms of government should be cautious the way they treat one another, because each arm also has its own powers.
Shola Judge Simi completes our number.
Well, politics that work, that is what we're seeing in the run-up to electioneering for 2019. But the consequences of these actions and inactions is something we need to appraise. You've done the opening, yourself and my other colleagues here, about the implications of this. Well, if the National Assembly members, the 109 of them in the Senate, and the 306 in the House of Reps, who feel the president has violated the oath of his office, they have the constitutional right. Now, that following through on that process is another ballgame entirely, with those for and those against clearly taking their position, some openly, some behind the scenes. Ijoma said it that most of those who spoke, and like Uju also said, on the floor yesterday in that joint session in the House of Reps, were mainly PDP members, opposition members. You rarely would have found an APC person who is a strong person clearly saying this and this. But people have their interests. Interests are at work as we speak. The institution of National Assembly, in my humble view, should be respected. The office of the Senate President, though he's first among equals, but it's an office created by the Constitution. And how that office, despite not having, immunity from prosecution, is handled will send a signal. The National Assembly embodies Nigeria's democracy. Going to the statement by the Minister of Defense, I'm talking about retired Brigadier General Mansour Dan Ali. He has come up again. Right from when this issue started early this year, he took a position. When clearly there were killings, General Dan Ali said there were communal clashes. I remember the press conference.
No, it was the police IG that said it.
No, even the Minister of Defense
also repeated
at that press conference.
Okay.
At the villa, he said the same thing. Our colleague who is in the State House Assembly got that clip. And the reporters were challenging him and said people are in their farms and people are in their homes and they are being killed. He said it's communal. Now, he's come up with his own suggestion. But I think the Minister of Defense needs to realize that we run a federal constitutional democracy here, whereby states have the right to make laws for those states. And if those laws are made and the governors are sent to them and they become laws in actual fact, the federal government cannot sit, especially the executive branch of the federal government, the federal tier, cannot sit in one corner and talk down on constituent parts of this federation.
Even the governor of a state cannot do that once it's a law. So it has to go back through the process to repeal the law.
That's the word I'm actually looking for. Repeal of the law. They are there in place. You just said it. Can
a law be suspended? No. You can only repeal it.
Exactly. So the stakeholders,
as it were.
The stakeholders on this issue need to come to a roundtable and sincerely discuss the issue.
It's only the military that suspends our laws. Immediately they take over, they suspend those aspects that have to do with the establishment and operation of the
Constitution
and fundamental human rights.
And this is a clear democracy we have in this country.
I think that's why he is suggesting. He's not saying suspend.
No, what he suggested suspension, and technically, can you suspend?
It cannot happen.
That is military language.
But on the other side, some persons will say he's only telling Nigerians this we cannot handle. This is the problem that we have in the country. And if this thing is not stopped, that's a simple, clear terms of what he's saying. But I think as a strong man, a defense man, they should look the other way, get a better suggestion on how we can stop. Yes.
This was not the first time he said this. He spoke to journalists in the Villa sometimes ago. He also alluded to the fact that when he talked about the remote and immediate causes, he talked about these laws as being one of the causes. But some people said there are other places where these killings were on,
Kogi
in Nimbe, Kogi, Enugu, Kogi, that they don't have these anti-grazing laws. So it goes beyond the anti-grazing law, they said.
Amechi, I think that one thing we need to say clearly, and that some people have actually stressed on, is we should be mindful of the fact that Nigeria currently runs a democracy, and whatever actions the authorities, whether military or otherwise, take is to help Nigeria's democracy work. You cannot say, let us suspend a law that is already on ground, and because you cannot meet up with the demands of the law. I think that is very, very wrong. What would be appropriate would be to say, these are the constraints we have, these are the challenges. How do we meet these challenges? That would be it. You don't begin to whittle down democratic government because you're not able to
I suggested a retreat, because if you ask the Minister of Defense, it gives you one suggestion. You ask the Minister of Agric, he will, from importation of grasses to ranching, he gives you different perspectives. If you ask the president, he offers his own. The more people you ask, the more reasons you get for these killings, and the more reasons they come up for solutions. So a round table where we, as a nation, take a look at this. If we pretend that we don't know what the problems are and what the solutions should be, let's get that round table and pretend to be seen to be working. But talking about impeachment, it was a former President Obasanjo that an impeachment move was commenced against him. He initially described it as those boys that don't have respect for their elders. He dismissed it with a wave of the hand, more like a joke. But after that, it kept on building and building. And at some point, the former president was alarmed that this handshake has gone beyond the elbow. That is becoming a wrestling bout. And he needed to quickly move in to appease the National Assembly members. Can we get to that point with this president who is very popular, has a cult-like followership in some parts of the country? That's a big question.
I don't know if I agree with you there, because even President Obasanjo was not unpopular at that time. I think that why it progressed to that extent at that time was that we had a one united National Assembly. I was also there. I covered the National Assembly at that time. And you had leaders like Umar Galina Abba and, of course, the different Senate presidents that came up. It was one united National Assembly. It cut across party lines. There were no strong party affiliations at that time. What was resolute in the minds of the lawmakers you had them was how to make Nigeria great. They were united in their purpose, in whatever they did at that time, if you recall. And that was why they were able to go over. But right now, I see a National Assembly that is somewhat polarized along party lines. I don't know how they can pull that off.
Let's take a break to get you into this program. You know, you're an integral part of a political platform. It is your program. Let's give it over to you.
You're welcome. It's the mail segment, and I'm Tenikang Akepu.
And I'm Amaka Okoro. Welcome.
We're getting started with a mail from Ikenna Moluku in Ikeja, Lagos State. He writes on the 12-point resolution by the National Assembly. And it says the media is awash with the National Assembly's 12-point resolutions to the President Muhammadu Buhari. Again, the National Assembly has shown itself to be an unserious body, just contented with catching the headlines. The totality of the resolution was dressed in a garb to give the impression that they are concerned about Nigerians, when the real intention is a personality fight between Dr. Saraki and the security agencies. The police did not say that Saraki was involved in the armed robbery. The press took it that way. The accused person's statement is clear, that he is Dr. Saraki's political thug, and for which he gave him a car which he used in the robbery operation. He maintained over and over again that Saraki was not involved in the robbery. This is an operation in which 30 innocent Nigerians were killed. The Senate did call on the police to unmask the killers. Now they are in the process of doing this. They are faced with threat because of one of the accused mentioned Saraki's name. Is it not fair to hear from Dr. Saraki on the allegation, whether or not he gave the said car or knows the accused person? The threat to invoke their powers is an empty one, as they have made it before. The press is enjoying the naked dance and must take responsibility for misinformation that has led to this.
Daniel Dogara in Abuja says, I am one of the candidates that took part in the police recruitment exercise in my state, Bauchi State. I listened to the interview of the public relations officer of the Police Service Commission on the program yesterday about the police recruitment, and I was surprised and in total dismay of the insincerity in the dealings of our leaders with Nigerians. The instruction said English language carries 60 marks, while other subjects carry 40 marks each. The total mark is 180. Now, how can you answer English language alone and score 180 marks? I believe the Police Service Commission is not telling Nigerians the truth. Another observation is that in my state, Bauchi State, the names of the candidates shortlisted are all Muslims. I encourage you people to do your research about this observation. Thank you.
And that's it on the mail segment. Send your mails to politicalplatform@raypower.fm.
Thank you so much for the mails. Like one of our listeners said, the last has not been heard, and we'll continue to dig in. We'll make efforts to speak with someone that wrote that list so that we get to know from that person what really transpired. If you recall, we spoke with the spokesperson of the Police Service Commission yesterday. But let's go back to the National Assembly now. And joining us via telephone is a member of the House of Representatives from Plateau State, Honorable Solomon Maren. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
So, was there an impeachment threat against the president? That paragraph in your resolution that said we may invoke constitutional powers if the president fails to heed to your resolutions.
Well, I don't think invoking constitutional powers means impeachment. There are a lot of other provisions of the Constitution that gives the National Assembly right to oversight, right to monitoring, right to exposing all kind of corruption, waste, and indeed maladministration in the system. So I don't think that amounts to impeachment. But I think the National Assembly will, in accordance to the constitutional provisions that are meant for them, because we are lawmakers. We should not be seen to be lawbreakers, but rather we should work in consonance with our laws.
Well, the media chose to interpret it to mean a threat to impeach the president.
No. You see, well, media, everybody, you have a right to your say. You have a right to interpret it the way you want to interpret it. But I think we have said it in the context of the law. And the context of the law is very clear. If you read the Constitution very well, you will see the functions of the National Assembly. And the National Assembly will only act in accordance to those laws. And they will not act outside those laws. And if we are talking about impeachment, I think it is not so hard a word for the National Assembly to use the word if that is what they want to do.
You are in the House of Representatives. Honorable Mohammed Kazaure said signatures are being collected to impeach the president. Is that true?
Well, I'm not aware that signatures are being collected. I think if he alleged, then he should be able to prove.
So nobody has approached you for your signature to impeach the president?
But not yet. I'm not aware yet.
Okay, there's this group, the parliamentary support group, that said what transpired at the executive session was not, and the resolutions did not reflect the thinking of the National Assembly in terms of the constitution of membership, that they believe it was just more of a PDP thing in that executive session.
Well, one, you will know that the PDP is not in leadership of the National Assembly. That is number one.
Except the Deputy Senate President.
And the Speaker are all APC members. That is number one. So for anybody to say that, that the person is just being mischievous, because one, the PDP is not in the helm of affairs of the National Assembly. The National Assembly is under the APC, and the APC is taking charge. And so for anyone to say that, that is already mischievous on its way. We are not unaware of this type of people who try to go around to drag all kind of sensational issues just to promote themselves and indeed their evil desires. But I think the National Assembly is one body, and we act as a body, because you are aware that in the legislative palace, the majority will always have their way, when the minority will always have their say. You can say anything you want to say, but the way...
So you believe it's the minority that is having their say now?
What those people who you say they are talking on legislative, whatever you call their name, I don't know them. But I think
Parliamentary Support Group. Abdul Mumin Jubri signed that statement.
National Assembly. It's not a known group to us in the National Assembly. So when they are talking, we don't know where they are coming from. If they are members of the National Assembly, we are not aware of that group because it's not registered anywhere in our votes and proceedings of the House. So we are not aware of them. And so I think that the National Assembly, when it sits in any sitting, decisions are taken based on the majority in those meetings. So if you were there and you said people did not vote and you said resolutions were read and people were not allowed to contribute, when the matter was closed in the House, where was your position? Because I'm sure that majority of members would have agreed to it. Because as I'm talking to you, I was not in Parliament in the sitting yesterday, but at least I have been fully briefed by my colleagues on what took place because I was already away out of Abuja. And I think that once members discuss...
and you support the outcome of that?
Of course. I'm with my colleagues. I support whatever resolution we arrive at.
Okay.
I'm a team player. I don't do that kind of... I'm a team player. I will work with my colleagues.
Even when they are wrong? Do you work with your colleagues even when they are wrong?
Well, my colleagues, the whole of them, 360 and 109 senators cannot sit down to be all wrong at a time. And if majority of them can go wrong at a time, it means something is wrong with us as a people.
Okay. We have to thank you so much, Honorable Solomon Maren, for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being part of the program today. We'll return tomorrow. Have a nice day.
Busted.